Hey, folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Tornado 20. And second,
Alrighty. Well, we had a lot of action last week in boxing. Not really a lot, but enough, I guess. Uh, we got more stuff going on this weekend. Um, we actually have Rowdy fighting tomorrow night. Rowdy Legend Montgomery. Well, we talked about him before. He's fighting tomorrow night. 11-5-1, fighting Maciej Sulecki, who is 31-2. Big step up for Rowdy Legend. But yeah, that's results. Where are my results? Big news. We talked about it briefly last week, but really didn't get too deep into it. The B sample of Brian Garcia, positive for sure. So he's saying now it's contamination of the supplements.
uh-huh.
So I don't know, he's going to supposedly take all the tests that he needs to take to prove this, but cannot believe it. Anyway, up in Canada, we had on Saturday, Christian Mbili stayed undefeated with a first round knockout of Mark Heffron. And that was for the WBC Continental American Super Middleweight title. And a split decision win for Alexander Gaumont over Santiago Fernandez, who was 8-0-1 coming in. Gaumont 10-0, now 11-0. And Dina Thorsland, unanimous decision. Saren Ketten. Both of them were undefeated going in. Thorsland 21-0. Seaton 11-0 at bantamweight. Thorsland gets that win. Experience, really. Let's see what else big ones happened over the weekend. We had the WBC Silver Light Flyweight Championship decided went to Eric Badillo, 15-0 now. For the 10th round TKO in a 10-round fight. That's always exciting. Over Mr. Double Rodriguez, Mr. Rodriguez squared, Luis Rodriguez Rodriguez. He has four losses, two same last names, and four losses. Light flyweight there, and then the main event really there was another 10-rounder, unanimous decision win for Rene Calixto Bibiano, who's to 23-0. Beat Seiko Nquato, who is 18-2, or now 3. Let's see. Big ones. There. What else we got? Page 2. We had over across the pond, we had some good ones. Josh Taylor losing a unanimous decision to Jack Catterall, another experienced fighter over
I think
the.
it's quite for
Oh, really? I didn't hear about this. What happened, Tom? You seem to know the story.
I ran. Came up. Hey, I was interested in different things. One for the Man, calm down. He was just crazy. Um, just trying to make a fool out of himself. There's an old cliche about one fool like an old fool. Uh, he's 96. Yeah, yeah, that makes it old.
Willie Nelson is younger than he is. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it ranked up there with Floyd Mayweather versus
Harry Merchant?
Larry Martin. Yeah.
Well,
I'll
kick your ass.
whoop your ass.
Big one.
No.
Larry, you could be 40 between your age and you still would have kicked your ass. She always used
I don't know. I don't think so. I heard
eating.
I heard from inside sources his main battle was with the bottle.
Sure,
Yeah, he's funny though. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a big fight. The main event, obviously controversial, at least in one guy's mind. T-Von Clark in the co-main event took out our Zorro fighter of the week, the cruiserweight, and got the BBB of C British cruiserweight title in the process. Eighth round knockout. Ellis Zorro gets his second loss.
his
Cheating.
full name.
Yeah, it's easy.
Like name
That's the funny part. That's his initials. EZ too. That's his initials. Ellis Zorro. EZ. I'm easy. He can tell everybody. Yeah, that's my initials. That's Chivon is the guy who beat him. Had a weirder name. Chivon Clark. Never even ever heard of anybody named Chivon till this. Anyway, also on the card, another guy with a little bit more uh, experience actually lost this one. Gary Cully coming in at 17-1, got a unanimous decision over Francesco Patera. Falls to 29-5, and then you gotta have a Patty fight when you have a fight overseas. Patty Donovan, 13-0, beating Lewis Ritson, 23-4 now. Patty's 14-0. That was a ninth round TKO at welterweight. And on Friday, we had Juan Pablo Romero, 14-1 coming in. Oh, that's a question mark. We can't even tell you what happened there. That happened Friday. Also Friday. I don't know what country this is in. Probably Polish somewhere. I don't know. Lucas Rosansky, 15-0, lost by knockout in the very first round to Lawrence Okolie, 19-1 at a heavyweight. That was last Friday. Oh, the one bet I lost this weekend on boxing was the one bet I had. Casey Benjamin got upset by Lucas Ballengall for the welterweight IBF European welterweight title on Friday. Kelsey coming in at 18-3 with one draw, and Ballengall coming in 17-2, so he gets his 18th win. Benjamin takes his fourth loss. All right. What's the deal there? Schedule. Friday. We got undefeated Friday here in Tijuana, of all places. Not going to be on the zone or anything, but it's going to be on Mexico Televisa, if that's in your cable programming. David Queller Contreras, number 5 in the world at bantamweight, is 26-0, fighting Edwin Barrios, who's 11-0 for the WBC International Bantamweight title. May 31st. What else we got? Patrick Alati. We have looks like South Africa. It might be some other country. Either way, they don't tell you his actual country. Hassan Mawayenko, 22-3 at middleweight, fighting Patrick Alati, who is 43-5. That's got to be an African country because it's for the WBO African middleweight title. That's just the standalone fight that popped up here on my 2-star and above schedule. That sounds like a good one. Then we talked about Rowdy. That's in Queens. The Rowdy fight. Melrose Ball in Queens. Let's see. The Red Owl Boxing Arena. Crazy place. That's in Houston. We've got Andreas Katsurakis. He is 12-0, fighting Kudratillo Abdukakarov, who is 20-2. That's for nothing, no title, but super welterweight title. No, super welterweight fight, I should say. And yeah, smart. And then Brian Gorham, 16-0, fighting Luis Manuel Baltazar, 12-1-1 at super lightweight. Can we go into Saturday? We got some Japanese stuff. And crazy there. Oh, here we go into Riyadh, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We got the big card where Dimitri Bivol. Yeah.
Sweet, Fury, think Kingdom come pretty well.
I think their sport washing business is going spectacularly. Uh,
Uh,
so Dimitri Bivol was supposed to fight our boy John Scully's fighter, but instead he'll be fighting another undefeated fighter with an identical record, but probably not near the resume that Bivol has. 22-0 Bivol. Malik Zinad is also 22-0, but Bivol's a heavy favorite going in. And it's not even the main event, actually. It looks like the main event is number 7 in the world versus number 4, a featherweight fight. This is going to be on not only the Zone, but ESPN Plus. It's kind of crazy. Both of them at the same time. I think they have a partnership now. Sorts. Anyway, Raymond Ford, 15-0-1. Nick Ball, 19-0-1 for the WBA World Featherweight title. And we got Hamza Firaz looking for win number 20, 19-0, fighting Austin Williams, who's 16-0 at middleweight. And Daniel Dubois fighting Philippe Hergovic. Dubois 20-2, Hergovic 17-0. And the two guys he lost to, Joe Joyce when he was undefeated at 11-0, and Alexander Usyk. Dubois. So he's a live dog against Hergovic.
yeah, no, plenty a lot. And you figured Mexico wants some controversy because it wasn't a low, um, you know, a legitimate feature. When I watched it that time and then again on the replay, a lot of people don't understand and see it. think a low blow that is damaging has to hit you directly in the testicle area.
Right.
Understand? Protective touch where you get hit to right, especially in a sideward type of motion, that protective top, and that can kind of give you, we speak in you can't trust me. It's not actually, you get like, it's like right below, and then forward motion,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you get hit to the side and the forward motion. So that punch was below the belt, and it did hit in a motion that was protective. So I don't think it was a body shot that did it. It's, I think this will be a very, very interesting fight between two guys, might be pulling, you know, to like their last stop, and the loser might not get another shot.
Right. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. They both got good resumes. Uh, and that it should be closer than it looks on paper. And we got a very interesting fight between Deontay Wilder and Zilei Zhang. And Zhang just came off um, uh, beating Joe Joyce and then had a majority decision loss to Joseph Parker. So the
So,
two
you
rounders,
so play a situation where you can't say against the same point to the there. But Julian Zhang had Parker down a couple times. He just lost the majority of the rounds, and he lost the decision. Parker beat Wilder every round. He dominated. He dominated. You're looking at like you would think, well, that should give Zhiling Zhang the close, and Wilder did. He Parker down. There did not. With this type of fight, you both guys are old. I think Wilder's now 38. I think Zhang is either 40 or 41. They're 41, I believe. I think I read 41. That sounds about right. This is going to be a rare time where Zhang's going to have height advantage because he's 6'6" and Wilder's 6'7". You know, now what could be the difference that not a lot of people take into consideration is Zhang is a Wilder best punch is the straight right hand. And he can throw it in really any motion. He can throw it straight. He can loop it, which is the best weapon against a southpaw. He can land that right hand straight. He can knock Zhang. He can knock him. I mean, Wilder can knock pretty much anybody out.
yeah,
I think skill wise, you got to put the advantage towards Zheling Zhang. And plus, he's got that good, sneaky straight line. If you ask me to put money on it, I would
Wilder
put
by
my
knockout.
money on because of his skill level and the fact that I think he's going to be able to find time for that left hand. I would make Wilder a live underdog because of that right hand power, especially against the south.
All right, you heard it.
Yeah, and that really was saying how Wilder's going to reboot. We're going to see a better version. Yeah, but neither of us said they could be losing. Kind of a red flag. I mean, you can't think like that. He's just got to be aggressive and then
Yeah.
maybe a good fight last because still
Mm,
you he wasn't even trying.
yeah.
How glad I think he I mean,
Yeah, he's He's the taller, lankier fighter, and he has the supposed knockout power, even though we haven't seen it in a while. Uh, but he's just a very horrible boxer in a lot of these cases where he loses these fights. And, once he gets on the back foot, he's fucking useless. I hate to say it, but yeah, yeah, he's like a Teddy Atlas to tell him to fight tall and, use that reach, use that height advantage that he has, and, fight at range. Because, the worst thing for a power puncher is to never be in range. You know?
Yeah.
And he lets people crowd him. He lets people push him into corners, and that's what happened, late in the Tyson Fury fight. And
Yeah, well,
yeah, yeah, but I really like him in this fight. I think he's probably going to learn something from the Joseph Parker fight, and this is going to be a little bit of just a little bit of rivalry going on between China and the United States. The bronze bomber here. It's even,
and we
yeah,
skill. He never really, and you could see he was trying to be a little bit better at Freeland, who was a very good technical fighter. He was a highly graded amateur and a world champion professional, who did a lot of things right. When Wilder was in the 2008 Olympics, and I'll never forget the conversation I had back, and it was the night Wilder fought Luis Ortiz the first time. And, it was the night of the Rock Haven Boxing show. And after the fight was over, we were all kind of following it, on the phone. And I was sitting there with former U.S. Navy Academy coach Jimmy McNally. And Jimmy was one of the team managers at the Olympics. The exact words that came out of Jimmy McNally's mouth were, I've never seen a human being with such natural power. His jab registered most guys' right hand.
mm,
Like that Evans go punch for the fourth finger.
yeah.
And the next words out of Jimmy's mouth were, he's bald. Man has an opportunity to become bald. So it makes sense when you rather closely, he did not. His that puncher sounded like a lean ball. He never really learned. And if you go back, so don't even look at the Fury fight. Go back and look at the two fights with Luis Ortiz, Ping Pong Ortiz, who was a highly decorated amateur out of Cuba and a world champion caliber fighter. Wilder won both those fights by, I think, one in the seventh and one in the 10th. First fight was the 10th round, and I think the second fight was the seventh round.
Right.
Right from the two knockdowns in the first fight and then the count and the second fight, I would say Ortiz won every minute.
Mhm.
I can't argue at all.
Yeah.
You cannot argue with one Ortiz.
Mhm.
I mean, Ortiz six his ears off for the first fight, then he gets knocked down round. He got up and got on his feet in the second round, and then he walked into a right hand, and I think it caught him on the side of the head in the 10th round, and he went down and out. Second fight, he's winning, 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 and winning. And then you could see he was starting to get a little bit big. Wilder landed a big right hand, and the fight was pretty much over.
That's the kind of fight he needs. Probably, if he does knock him out, I don't think it's going to be early. I think it's going to be he's going to have to show his conditioning. It's going to be past the mid rounds today. But he's probably going to win by decision if he wins, because I don't think Zhang is going down. He's too tough. But it's a heavyweight fight, so you never know.
You never know, right?
How much do you think a gold medal is worth, Tony? How about that question for you? I'll tell you in a minute what one person thinks it's worth. Man, just how much do you think it's worth? If somebody were to sell their gold medal in the next Olympics after they won it. how much how
No,
much would somebody pay?
freaking the Olympic tried immediately what kind of country it came from. You know, 'cause right now the United States, I don't even know who's representing. It's not that good anymore. I don't even know who's representing the United States in this coming Olympics. It used to be you'd read a magazine and would rank all the U.S. like Olympians that were going in and their chances of winning a gold medal. You were invested in guys like in '92, like De La Hoya, and I'm trying to remember who else was in '92. '96, you had a great team. You had Tarver, Mayweather, David Reed, Fernando Vargas. Fighters there. You know, in '88, you had another good team. You had Roy Jones, Riddick Bowe, um, Ray Mercer, good fighters. Now it's like, oh, who's representing our team? Well, so say this right now. To say, I'll use the name of a previous U.S. gold medal, and I'll use the name David Reed, Andre Ward, and they win a gold medal. And they say, hey, I want to sell my gold medal.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it would be a big, a big money maker. But you go down somewhere like in like country like England, the British time fighter over there, he wins a gold medal. She'll get a lot more money than it would in the United States.
Well, the International Boxing Association is actually really offering prize money to all those who become Olympic champions and medalists at the Paris Games. Um, Even though they were stripped of recognition by the International Olympic Committee last year. This is a organization, I believe, run by a bunch of Russians. I'm not saying that's bad, but kind of is here. But anyway, they are offering $100,000 to the gold
Oh,
medalists team, and the athlete will receive 50, their national federation will receive 25, and their coach will receive 25, said the IBA president Umar Kremlev. But silver medalists get $50,000 for their team and 25,000 for the bronze medalists. Uh, Imagine that in every weight class. Where is all that money coming from? $3.1 million will be distributed to more than 100 boxers. IBA Secretary General Chris Roberts said, "We are setting a clear example for many on how international federations should be treating their champions." Hold on. The IOC decided in June to strip the IBA of recognition over its failure to complete reforms on governance, finance, and ethical issues. Oh, shit. Ah, anyway, so I don't think anybody's going to refuse those rewards. Is what it is. So that's how much a gold medal's worth this year. $100,000 minimum. You get from the IBA. Here's a funny story I saw recently. I don't usually report on sponsorships and partnerships with businesses, but I found this one quite funny because it's Colby Covington, and he has a little bit of a reputation for being a little loose with the women. So who does he partner up with? Hotel Planner, a leading travel technology platform and hotel booking engine, has announced a new collaboration with Colby Covington. Very funny. And he's going to give away $5,000 in hotel planner free hotel booking credit to one of his fans through his social media during his fights. It's part of this deal. That's something different. Right. But the joke here, I guess, is I don't think Colby ever plans to get a hotel when he ends up getting one. He's probably quicker than that. He just goes and does it. Anyway, he's a new sponsor, but well, they're a new sponsor of him. Anyway, we also have a little bit of a development over in California on their pension fund for MMA fighters. Turns out the boxing model of this has not really worked out that well, but the author of this bill, a guy named Matt Haney from San Francisco, said this should benefit the more than 400 MMA fighters currently licensed by the California State Athletic Commission. And a fighter will just need to accrue 39 scheduled rounds, about 12 to 14 bouts, at commission regulated MMA events to vest in the retirement benefit fund. Does not retroactively cover fighters. So it's interesting. It's not going to be using taxpayer dollars either. Financed through ticket sales, sports paraphernalia, and souvenirs. $1. It's kind of like what John Scully does, except with the ticket sales. $1 of every ticket sold will be earmarked for the fund. Um, and there's actually, this is a Yahoo story I found, but they actually go into detail on the boxer's pension plan and how hopelessly bankrupt it is, basically. That the 200 boxers could have claimed a pension in 2022, and only a dozen did. And the commission failed to increase the amount of revenue generated for the pension to ensure the plan is adequately funded, and the plan does not have enough money to pay all unclaimed pensions without reducing the amount of money received by fighters who become eligible in future years. So basically, only $294,000 was set aside for the 2.1 million owed to boxers who haven't been paid. Crazy. Um, but anyway, Haney has researched all of that and he's familiar with what happened there. He actually amended his bill to require that the commission send annual statements informing future vested MMA fighters of their account balances. So hopefully it will not crash and burn in a bad way, because that's a good idea. What else we got here? We had a situation here in the United Kingdom with something that they call white collar boxing. There's a big article here about it on the BBC.com, the British Broadcasting Company. And it's a coroner is getting involved now because they're trying to review white collar boxing matches after the death of a man in an event in Worcester, not Massachusetts, but Worcester, England. Dominic Chapman, just 26 years old, he collapsed after receiving a quote single catastrophic punch unquote to the head in a bout at Tramp's nightclub in April 2022, and he died 2 days later. And so they're looking into his death, and turns out it was from a traumatic brain injury.
Oh,
And so now they want to regulate what happens with these underground, basically, events, but they're, putting people in who are uh, off weight, I guess, is one of the issues, and not matched well, obviously. Um, but even the kid's father says banning it may not be realistic. Making it safer should be something that can happen. Uh, but yeah, it's just no excuse for that one punch. Kid dies in an event like that. But anyway, The worst part for the father, he said he would never forgive the fact that the event carried on after his son was taken out of the nightclub. And obviously, I don't know how they, if they knew how bad he was, but he did die.
Well, you know, here's the thing though. I mean, how many times have there been professional fights, professional cards, where fighter was taken out on a stretcher?
Yeah,
Sometimes, it turned in, you know, to a fatality. Of course, I can name probably 15 or 20 off the top of my head.
right.
Um, and, so you can really try. You know what you're getting into. The show must go on.
Yeah. So the company involved is called Ultra Events. I guess they do these things a lot. Since 2017, this Mr. Chapman was the third person to have died taking part in this white collar boxing trend. And Ultra Events Limited um, is going to have to take measures to make their sport and events safer after this inquest that's happening. Um, but basically, some of the specifics of the accusations that sound kind of concerning. There's people that have their weights falsified by event organizers, and gloves and head guards were reused between fights, making them heavy and wet. The company insisted the gloves used in Mr. Chapman's fights were brand new gloves made from closed cell foam, which does not absorb water. Uh, that's what it is. Anyway, uh, there actually was evidence that Chapman attended 13 of 16 free boxing training sessions ahead of the bout, though. He told the coroner that despite missing some of the sessions, he was happy, and Mr. Chapman was ready for the fight and that his opponent was a fair match. And 15 years this company has been running these events, and brain injuries are rare, said a spokesman. But anyway, so that's the story over in the UK. White collar boxing. Stay away from it, I guess. How about Conor Ben? You guys hear about his situation now? He's
I have
suspended.
not.
Suspended again. Remember we talked about this probably the last time when it turned out he might have been busted for eating too many eggs. Gave him a positive test, or that was his accusation. I don't know, but there was an appeal, and then an appeal of the appeal, and so that suspension is back on now. That the National Anti-Doping Panel had initially lifted the suspension against Ben last July. Now it's back on. So yeah, it's a confusing situation, but it's taken a long time for the suspension to be ratified, but now it's potentially ratified. There might even be another way for Connor to appeal this situation. But yeah, that would have to take it to the National Anti-Doping Panel, which is an independent panel that looks at the evidence. Oh no, that's what just happened. The National Anti-Doping Panel just looked at it. That's an independent panel that looks at the evidence from both sides and then makes a decision. That decision can also be appealed either by the athlete or by UK anti-doping. Uh, and so they appealed that decision. They won that appeal, and now they're back into a provisional suspension situation. So, craziness. Uh, Ben's provisional suspension is not the end of the matter. It has not yet resulted in an actual sanction or ban. So basically, it's provisional, whatever you want to read into it. But UK anti-doping has not determined whether there will be an actual sanction or ban. Guess that's the politics of it. Ben does have avenues of appeal, for example, via the Court of Arbitration for Sport, according to regulations in that. So he can argue for a reduction in any ban if they do indeed impose a ban on him. But he hasn't really fought any big, huge events since his suspension was lifted. He had a points victory over Peter Dobson in February, but yeah, I don't think that was on pay-per-view. Yeah, that's kind of bad. This is a big one here. Dwayne Johnson is going to play an MMA fighter. Who do you think he's going to play?
Well, I can't answer it because I know the answer.
Because
I've already
you're a
Googled
rock fan. Who do you think he's going to play, Tom?
God, I'm trying to think. I think I see it, and God, yeah, it's not coming to me. I have to tap.
The Smashing Machine.
It must, yeah.
Yes. Unbelievable turn of events. I watched this documentary off one of those free download services back when they were more legal than they are now. And boy, I was enthralled by that. And then we actually uh, interviewed Mark Coleman, who was in it. And it's just a fantastic documentary. And I've even watched some stuff that was done more recently, like within the last 10 years of them, like following up with Mark. He's like a car dealer now. He works at a car dealership, sells cars. And just an incredible story of what their bodies went through in these tournaments that they did, and these stuff that they did overseas. And I mean, not only the injuries and the recovery and lack of recovery, but the drugs that they had to do or they thought they had to do to keep up was the real story behind that documentary. And boy, you talk about the pioneer days. I mean, it is
Yeah,
really
and he
amazing.
was a very intimidating monster when he
Yes.
came around. I mean, he was
Yeah.
moving up the ranks quick. And he was also at that infamous Pride Grand Prix of 2000.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. I think that's on YouTube, Rich, if you haven't seen it. And he was on the card, and I would have seen with him and Mark. Yeah,
Hmm.
you never know. But he was, you know, in the UFC, he was just very brutal. It looked like he was on his way up.
Yeah. Guess who's playing Mark Coleman in the movie? Ryan Bader.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Good time to do that after he got smashed by the huge dude. And Ukrainian world heavyweight boxing champion Alexander Usyk is going to play Bob Chanchin, who is Kerr's big rival in the film, and it's based on the documentary. Um, it's based on pretty much what's in the documentary anyway. Uh, but crazy, yeah, this whole thing. That's gonna bring a big spotlight to the sport, and Rock has always been a fight fan, I think. Uh, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to have him transformed into a much younger MMA fighter like that. I don't know. He really don't look like it. They're probably gonna have to give him some kind of a wig because the guy had a lot of hair. Got to stop tanning. It's a pretty white dude. Oh, anyway, so we've got UFC this weekend, back after a break over Memorial Day, and it's a big one from Jersey this time. Makachev not fighting in front of his hometown Arab crowd for the first time in a long time. He is fighting, though, a real tough guy here, a real journeyman warrior in Dustin Poirier. Islam, 25 and 1, Poirier 30 and 8. Um, I would have said before his last fight and win that he had no chance in this fight, but I don't know. I think now he has a great chance of winning, but he's still a mere chance. Yes. Yeah. Right.
People really work at it, but I think that's not a joke in feat. If Christian tries to jump hard for 15, I don't think that's going to work. He's got to land something big. To get to the ground, I think he's going to want to settle, even though he has a lot of experience.
As long as Makachev
But
doesn't try a
my head
guillotine,
with the jam.
he's all set. Any other submission move but a guillotine, he might get it. Yeah, I think Makachev's going to win. Just you never can count out Dustin as an underdog in this one, just because he's really not doing it for uh, anything more than legacy at this point, and a chance to get a title. Um, obviously.
So, freaking years first camp, and I think he has interim hopes. And he wants to try to.
Yeah.
It's just going to be it's just so narrow. I mean, until he's got to be the favorite.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is, I mean, Poirier has got that knockout style. He's just coming off a real slick knockout. And, Makhachev, probably his only weakness would be his chin if you could get to it, but he's so relentless with the takedowns and the wrestling. I don't think Poirier can keep him off long enough to knock him out. So it's going to be one of those decision fights, might not go to decision, might be a submission win for Islam, but I think it's going to be a long fight for Poirier. It's going to be ugly. If he wins, he's going to have to do it within the first couple rounds and really just catch Islam sleeping. Get him up against the cage, knee him in the face when he's trying to do a takedown, something big to rock him, and then he's just going to have to, let the killer instinct take over. But otherwise, if it goes long and it becomes a wrestling match, Poirier is just going to get outclassed. Unfortunately, experience can't really help him there. It's just the technique will overwhelm him. And the more exciting fight to me is the co-main event. Um, but I don't know, what do you think about Poirier, Makachev? You think obviously Makachev's better wrestler, right?
Yeah, yeah, I champ.
Champ, champ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean Strickland was great. I saw him on one of the embedded episodes, and he called it inbreaded. And then, yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah. I I don't know. I
Well,
mean, Paulo is like such a basic type of fighter. Like he doesn't really do a lot of dynamic stuff. But like coming off such a long layoff the last fight, I did not expect much from him, and he fought his heart out. Strickland is also a little bit more basic than most fighters, but he's good at all the basic stuff. And he's got a little bit of a weird defense, but he should, 6 ways to Sunday outclass Paulo Costa, but you never know how much Costa learned from being a little bit gassed at the end of his last fight and how well conditioned he's going to come in for this one. All we know is from that one embedded episode, I can tell you he's not going to have a future in baseball because he blew the first pitch at the Mets game.
for 57.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't let him practice. Yeah,
He was the guy. He was nervous and he got drunk the night before or something like that. And I mean,
yeah.
this got a
The other thing is that both of these guys are very viral social media people. Uh, Paulo Costa is just a character, he does a lot of trolling, as they say, of other MMA fighters, and has this gimmick he does with the secret juice. This is so funny guy. Anyway, Sean is more viral for his just crazy, wild opinions and outspoken thoughts and real life story. I mean, his story alone is controversial. It's crazy. Uh, but he had a rough go about it the last time. Now he's really trying to put it together, and I think he's going to take care of business. That nice jab that he's got. He's just got to keep busy with that and just make sure Paulo has to work for every takedown he attempts and elbow him on the side of the head when he goes for a leg. I think he'll be able to do it. Paulo Costa reminds me of like the old school UFC fighters, like Forrest Griffin. They really wouldn't do anything dynamic. They just do the basics really well. And he's just one of those type of fighters. He surprises you sometimes because he does the basics, but still wins. But I think Sean's just a little bit more dynamic, different. Going to confuse him, and it's just going to be a styles fight. But it could very well go the distance. No title on the line. Just 3 rounds. Strickland likes to be involved in the long fights. So I'd say decision money line, Strickland. And then we got Kevin Holland. Let's talk about experience there. He's got 25 wins, 11 losses, going up against Michael Olick, who is 19-7. And has lost 2 of his last 3. Of course, there's no slouches. Kai Barallo submitted him, and Michael Pereira knocked him out in the first round. Just this past March, he did have a first round knockout win of his own against Chidi Njokuani in August of 2023. But I think this is kind of a tune up fight for Kevin Holland. He wins this one. It's actually, if you look at his record, it's kind of funny, but Olekshuk, if you're going to bet on him, you probably want to go first round knockout. He's got one, two, three, 4 straight wins. Not together, but his last 4 wins, they're scattered between losses, have all been by first round knockout. All of them in the UFC, too, since his first split decision win at UFC 260. Actually, his first fight was UFC Fight Night 160. He got submitted. Oh no. Jeez, he's been more than one over that. Khalil Roundtree back in 2017. No contest. Anyway, so I like Kevin Holland by decision. he's had some ups and downs. He's lost two in a row, but I think to a lot better fighters. Michael Page, no slouch. Uh, and Jack Della Maddalena was a split decision. Uh, so I don't know. It's probably going to be a competitive fight, though. Kevin Holland likes to talk a lot of trash, literally, inside, in before, after, during fight. So it'll be entertaining, one way or another. Alex Morono versus Nico Price. I haven't really done the deep dive on this one, but I know from watching Morono, he's another one of those Forrest Griffin type fighters. Just does all the basics really well. He's a very good wrestler. Not so much a spectacular striker, but if he gets you hurt, he can finish it. And Price, I don't think is up to par with him.
Yeah,
Yes. And then we've got Elizu Zaleski dos Santos. He is 24-7. 24-7 with one draw at welterweight fighting Randy Brown, who's 18-5. And he is is he the brother or cousin of the champ there, Randy Brown? The UK guy, right?
uh,
No. Hmm.
you know,
I'm
he's
thinking of
from
somebody
Jamaica.
else. He's a Jamaican. I'm sorry. I thought he was related to the fighter, the guy that took out Kamaru Usman with the head kick. No, different guy I'm thinking of. This is Randy Rude Boy Brown, and he is going up against another easy, Elizu Zaleski dos Santos. He's coming off a couple wins, big ones, Muslim Salikov and Wellington Turman. Also has a loss to Jack Della Maddalena, Randy Brown. Dos Santos. It's got 14 TKOs or knockouts, three submission wins, and seven decisions. Last fought to a draw back in November of 2023 against Rinat Fakhretdinov and beat an Nurmagomedov by split decision. That's an accomplishment in itself. Lost to Muslim Salikov his last loss. That was in 2020. So yeah, this is gonna be a tight one. I think I like Randy, but a lot of good UFC wins against some big name for Dos Santos. I don't know. That's kind of a toss-up. Might stay away from betting on that one. Then we got Caesar Almeida. He's 5-0 at middleweight, fighting Roman Kopylov, who is 12-3. Don't know much about Almeida, but I know Kopylov loves the knockout. He has, let's see, till his last loss by rear naked choke to Anthony Hernandez, he was on a knockout streak of UFC fighters. Went to Alicio De Chirico, Punahele Soriano, Claudio Ribeiro, and Josh Fremd, all with knockouts. And then Albert Duraev took him to unanimous decision, and Carl Roberson rear naked choked him in his debut with the UFC. But otherwise, he's been really knocking everybody out. A couple decisions scattered in there. But yeah, Kopylov by knockout would be a good bet. 11 out of 12 wins. Almeida also, though, is a knockout artist in his young career, despite this really being only his second official fight with the UFC outside of the Contender Series. Uh, and he's got three first round knockouts and some Brazil feeders, and then a unanimous decision against Lucas Fernando in Dana White's Contender Series. And the one win in the UFC was a TKO in the second round with elbows and punches. But yeah, I think he's probably gonna have a more difficult time getting even a decision win if he gets one over Kopylov. I think Kopylov is gonna have to take him out early. Like Kopylov by knockout in that one. And we got Jailton Almeida. He is a very dynamic striker and good Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. He is uh, 20-3. 12 of those wins by submission, 7 by knockout. He's fighting Alexander Romanov. We got Kopylov, Romanov. It's a Russian, half Russian show over here. Jailton Almeida. His last fight was a knockout loss, 36 seconds in against Curtis Blades, and that was quite the upset. Almeida just kind of fell into a mode of trying to go for takedowns, and Blades just basically elbowed him in the side of the head a bunch of times, and that was it. Very big surprise, but to me anyway. Some experts picked it. Before that, he did his decisioned Derek Lewis, unanimous decision, back in November, and he was on quite the win streak. I mean, since the feeder leagues, he had beaten everybody. So that was a surprise. Romanov, I think, is going to be an easier target. He's call him King Kong, but he's also a little bit more well balanced than your typical heavyweight. He's got 6 knockout wins, 9 submissions, and just 2 decision wins. Been knocked out once and decisioned once, both in the last 3 fights. So he's got recent losing experience, a little bit deeper than Almeida. Uh, he's beaten kind of mid-level guys. Blagoy Ivanov, whatever you bet him before, whether you bet for him or against him, Blagoy Ivanov is always going to go to decision. That's tip for you bettors out there. I learned that one the hard way. Chase Sherman was his last finish. That was in April of 2022. That guy is kind of the definition of a journeyman. Jared Vanderaa TKO'd him before that, so not a real lineup of world beaters on his record. But Almeida, I think, just slipped in his last fight. He got into a situation where he was trying to wear the guy down and you know use his wrestling technique a little too heavily instead of standing up and striking, which might have been better for him, and he paid for it. It's not going to make the same mistake twice, I hope. So I'll go with TKO submission for Almeida on that one. Don't know the odds offhand, but lightweight's next, or before that, it's fifth fight of the night. You got Grant Dawson, 20-2 with 1 draw, fighting Joe Solecki, who is 13-4. And Solecki, heavy underdog in this one. He's got a little bit less experience, obviously, but I don't know what his chances of winning are. But if you go on to the FanDuel and do the fantasy lineups, he is like the cheapest fighter out there, one of them. So obviously Dawson is a heavy favorite. We got welterweights Philip Rowe, 10-4, fighting Jake Matthews, 19-7. Those are a couple good examples of journeymen, young guys. And then we got Mickey Gall, 7-5. Probably most famous now for being an opponent of CM Punk there in his one of his first MMA fights.
Where even
Yeah.
he was on the call and fight press conference at the time. So
Yeah, hey Mickey, it's so bad. It's not. Right. Well, he's going up against another uh, filler fighter, I guess you call him. He's Basil Hafez. He's 8-4-1. Never heard of him. I haven't heard of Ball. 7-5. Aylin Perez, bigger, a little bit bigger name in the female fight ranks. She's 9-2 at bantamweight, fighting Jocelyn Edwards, who's 13-5. I don't know. That's probably it's almost a sure bet with a lot of these female fights. They're going to go the distance, especially the lighter weight ones, really lightweights. But I don't know. Haven't really done much research into this one yet, which I'll probably have to do that tomorrow. Get my boots in. Atom weight. Atom weight. I think atom weight, right? ATOM is usually in boxing. In boxing, I know that. I'm pretty sure that's the lowest weight. They, even though they have a weight called minimum weight, I don't think it is actually the minimum weight. Minimum weight, flea weight. That's a good one. Jesus. She's the flyweight champion of the world. She has beaten all crackheads 60 pounds or less. Instead of fat jokes, Tom's got light jokes. Tom's got skinny jokes tonight. All right, first fight of the night. Mitch Raposo 9-1 at flyweight of all weights. Flyweight. Fighting Andre Lima, who's 8-0. Yeah, not flyweight, folks. Yeah. That's the belt they give away at the anorexia convention. Flyweight belt. Oh, all right, I guess that's all the MMA stuff we got. I think we actually do have one other event. Let me find it here. Uh, one championship. There it is. They've got another one Friday night fights. This time with two fights. Carlo Bumanang, who is 4-0, fighting Chayan Orzak, who's 8-2 at featherweight. And then Ryosuke Honda, 12-4 at flyweight with one draw, fighting Ryosuke Noda, who is 6-3. And we don't have Bellator or PFL events for quite a while. PFL, next one actually is June 8th. Bellator, next one is June 22. So that's it for a while, damn me. Except for this one big UFC fight. Hopefully we can get some money coming in on these ones, because I had a week off, but the last losing streak in those fights is still on my mind, so we're gonna make up for that. It's a bad weekend. Yeah, finally stuff.
Champion of the world.
We're gonna create it. We're gonna create our own sanctioning. Flea weights. The Flyweight Boxing League. There you go. FBL. We only accept fighters under 150 pounds. No, 120. 120 flea weights. We will recruit our fighters outside of methadone clinics. At the heroin addicts. Oh, anyway, the one rule will be there will be no drug testing at all. You'll actually be given weight loss drugs upon sanctioning. All right. On that note, anything else from you guys? Silence. You got any predictions, Tom?
No,
Psychic
I think
premonitions.
I found out too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, December 21st. Turkey was it Turkey Peak? Got to get his name right here. Yeah, I guess they just announced it. It's going to be 21st of December. So Fury will have a couple extra months.
All right. Oh,
And, you know, such a yes, and Fury haters are saying he's an idiot to take the remethyl.
mhm, right.
You know, they say, well, you know, because these people are so sure of what's going to happen. Fury loses, that his stock's way down, and it's going to hurt Joshua fight. Well, I don't think it would. I don't think you could think like this. I don't think champion fighters think like this. There's no rematch.
Yeah. Also,
I mean, even if you lose, Chris Fraser never stopped wanting a rematch with George Foreman. Some of the Fury haters out there think, hey, let them have the rematch and go from there.
yes. Speaking of controversy and Tyson Fury, got a story about gloves. UFC gloves, though. The UFC gloves are new now. They've been messed with and rearranged supposedly to prevent more eye pokes from happening. And they have mixed reviews. Sean Strickland uh, absolutely, positively hates them. Dustin Poirier says the gloves are more comfortable but will lead to more cuts. And Islam Makhachev has also said they tough to maneuver in. But it's an effort to reduce eye pokes, cuts, and hand injuries. It's easier to make a fist, is the one good thing Poirier said about it. But the padding isn't as dense, apparently. He says, I feel like the knuckles are going to pierce through the padding, but I like the new ones better. I think they're better for me. And anyway, they weigh less than the gloves used formerly in the promotion, which became mandatory at UFC 14 in 1997. Hmm. They keep your fingers closed a little bit, apparently. But yeah. All right, Tom. What's your crystal ball say about the big orange guy? How much time do you think he's getting? This conviction he just picked up.
Not apparently, the judge, like, even CNN says the judge was way overboard. That,
Yeah.
I mean, the trial has a lot of on the inside of the government. Names of the jurors were supposed to be private. They wouldn't. Plenty of them would vote for an acquittal. They'd lose their job, would be firebombed. They're still in the death threat. And that New York City resident, and you vote for acquittal, it's hang up the jury. Imagine the kind of lynch mob by Robert De Niro in your country. So this is not a stock. It could be talked here very quick. And I don't mean state appeal. This will have to be a federal appeal.
Right.
They'll have to bypass the New York system, which you'll be able to do. And the irony of this is this is going to cement his support even more.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be able to fundraise off it like he always does. Uh, but yeah, it was kind of a surprise. Every single freaking count. This doesn't usually happen. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just when the series of the good. You know, I mean, if their names would be all over the New York Times, it's really,
Yeah.
I think it's, you know,
Right.
they do that for us anyway, so the quicker they can get you still going, the better. The irony of
Right. Trump could be president and then pardon himself. He's no, he's gonna go appeal it to this level, and even if he loses, he could take it to the Supreme Court, and then by then the election will happen, and if he's in the presidency, he will pardon himself immediately.
right,
Boom! That would be the funniest thing to ever happen in this situation, because it'd be such a waste.
pretty hilarious.
It would be such a waste, and it would just prove how stupid the system is because it takes so long. Such
You know?
ridiculous bullshit. Anyway, on that note, till next week, hopefully we see some good money winning action. And I don't think I have him for a knockout, but I'm betting on Deontay Wilder in one of my parlays this week. I think he's gonna turn it around. We'll see.
Well, it
Yeah, yeah. Loser leaves the kingdom, Tom. Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen, other than Czech Congo, a more sculpted fighter perform so crappy in his fights. I had to compare him to Czech because Czech was one of those guys when he was on a good day, he could tear you up. But like he was like you take one look at him if you didn't know anything about MMA and you see him across from any fighter and you'd be like, oh, that guy's gonna get destroyed. This Czech Congo dude is fucking massive.
should have been King Kong.
Yeah, just like absolutely ripped physically and just cannot fight. Sometimes he looks like a moron in there. Like, how the hell did he even get to this level? Deontay Wilder sometimes gets in those modes where he forgets how good he can be and how powerful his punches can be at range. But it's just like the one thing I can always count on him to have problems with is finding his range. That's his big problem. He just doesn't know how to use his reach. But I think he's probably going to work on that. Somebody's got to have told him that by this point. It started
Well,
working.
they were really
Yeah, yeah. This is
you looking
big opportunity to get sport washed away. On great
great.
things.
Too much too much. You know, Phyllis, are you familiar with hometown Pennsylvania?
Only from the Billy Joel song.
Leaving and going, they get on with it with an energy extension. They get off, turnpike, to birth extension, birth land, which is a lot of it. And then you have about 15, 20 minutes to the next section, town, then about 20 minutes brings you nice, such as that, you know, and called Tornado, so it she, 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 tornado templates, people see storms all across the country. And
Nice.
people for video and we get randomly. I'll tell you a few years ago, we had some storm warnings, and apparently a tornado pretty much in the house was big one. Wham bam, thank you, man. And my house, we got wind, we got, not even really any hail. Fresh lightning 3 miles away. It was like a disaster area.
Huh.
So the friends were on the cruise trying to put,
Oh yeah.
you know, tornado warning here and there. One hit the gym I go to during that hurricane, and but the other night the tornado tackler had a speed, and he said, "So that's about 45 minutes away. Minutes after, I'm gonna watch this at high speed." And he's in his phone. It's just a little market. And he goes, "Okay, you've been out here in Allentown, and they had like some activity. There was a tornado sighting, but it didn't do a full touchdown." He goes, "Now this cell is moving towards Manchester." And I'm like, "It's going east to west." I'm like, "That's pretty unusual." It's going this guy's speed. Now you can see and you can see, where he's going. And he's like showing him up the distance. He was like, you can see that, cloud formation way, way, way off in the distance. And that's what I'm trying to intercept. So I said, maybe I'll see some landmarks that I know from Allentown, maybe where like the Phillies minor league team is, or where the Eagles training camp used to be. I'm like, maybe I'll see some where the word still goes sometimes if I'm up in that area. And I see he's on the road, and I see Schoolhouse Road. Schoolhouse Road. Hey, that's kind of unusual. And then I see Route 113. I'm like, wait a minute, Route 113 Schoolhouse Road is 5 minutes from me.
Mm-hmm.
You really invested. Like, nah, it's coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, there's one that I go to. He comes down to an intersection. Intersection is right where the dog I babysit lives.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. He's coming up the street towards my house. And it's got the live stream going. People are commenting, and he's responding to maybe not the safest thing to do when you're driving. So listening to him, and he's like, "Man, I'd love to find a really good spot to pull over. See if I can see this, get a good spot of this formation and see some local people." Like, "Hey, buddy, church parking lot coming up to your left, and on my street,
Yeah.
like barely even a half mile from where I live."
Look.
So then he makes a right, and he's like, "I think if I go down right here, maybe I can get a better, driving towards." And I'm like, "You just went into a residential neighborhood." And you hear a second later, "I'm in a residential neighborhood." Right turning in, and then he does like a U-turn out of it. Like, make a right. Then he passes my street, and he keeps going, and he goes down, like, he makes a curve, and he makes the one right down there, and he's like trying to say something. And then he pulls up a little bit more, and he's kind of getting confused where he is. He pulls into a Wawa, and which, if you guys don't know, is basically like a fill it up version of 7-Eleven. So he's in that truck, and he's like reading his, he goes, "Somebody guy is giving me directions." I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, you're a half mile from my house. You should know where I'm going." Like, they call tornado. They give me, read.
Well, yeah, right.
I'm street.
That's awesome.
Really, nothing to do with things.
And no tornadoes were injured in the making of that.
We live in a magical universe.
Oh, well, you talk about things happening for a reason. It's kind of funny. You mentioned that whole story because the other day, randomly out of the blue, I get a text message from Louis J. Marciano. And I'm like, what the heck is this? and so I guess he's Sonny's son, one of the brothers' sons. And so Rocky would have been his great uncle or uncle,
Mm, that-
uncle. Yeah. So
that-
Lewis contacts me and wants to know if I'm Rich the boxing historian. And I'm like, oh geez, what did I write about Rocky that he didn't like or something? I thought he was mad at me. And I said, no, I've written some stuff and I wrote some stuff about Ali Colombo. And so he didn't know me from that, but he apparently, I guess he had a bone to pick or something with this other guy. So he ends up calling me to talk about why there will never be a Rocky Marciano movie. And his brother Peter, or his uncle Peter, and his and Rocky's son, I guess, are working with somebody to try to make one, but he doesn't think it's going to happen because he thinks it's all bullshit. But anyway, he's a very conservative guy. He's
I do.
he does politics discussions a lot. Like he goes on the radio all the time doing it in his local area there in New York. And so he gave me some really good insight on some of the things that I was fascinated with Rocky. Um, and he definitely will come on the show, I think. I talked to him for like 2 hours. It's like, once he found out I had a little bit of history with Brockton, and the Petronellis, and, I knew some of the names. It was just crazy. And then I looked on his profile, and I hadn't realized that Hank Tattaglia, who we interviewed years and years ago,
Yeah.
he actually was on Pawn Stars with some of Rocky's stuff. I don't think I had ever seen that clip before, or I had forgotten about it because, that was on Lewis's Facebook page, and I caught that whole video, and I was like, wow. And they definitely did not want to give him anywhere near the amount of money he wanted for all this stuff. But yeah, it was just like, oh, the Rocky Marciano Foundation. Great. So anyway, yeah, we might get Lewis on a future show to talk about Rocky.
Pretty cool.
He's very particular. He loves to talk about his family and he's really kind of got a unique theory that Rocky was smarter than everybody gave him credit for, and he really doesn't like to talk as much about the technique and the boxing skill and all that. He likes to talk about what Rocky did beyond boxing and the whole thing with Muhammad Ali. He said was actually supposed to be like a civil rights thing that they were going to do like a roundtable discussion on civil rights issues together and hype up the the conversation. And I guess the powers that be was like no at the time, so they shot it down. But that was something I never knew told about. So yeah, we'll shoot for that on one of these shows. Get him on and have we got to figure out like a good anniversary of one of Rocky's fights to do it on, and talked a little bit about that. The Rocky Marciano statue dedication, where the I told him about you, Tony, and I said, he came all the way up from Philadelphia, and he actually met the ancestors of Jersey Joe, and they put the folder over the picture of their uncle getting knocked out. I was very, either their great uncle, whoever it was. I think it was their great uncle. Yeah, grandfather. Okay.
Jersey, two grandkids,
Yeah,
Billy and Vincent.
yeah. So I told him about that, and I said the funny thing was Jersey always com complained that he was about to knock Rocky out with the next punch. He was, and so he got really passionate at that point, Lewis, and started talking about how if you watch that fight as much times as I have, you'll see that Jersey was at the point where he was broke down. He was in desperation. That's why he thought he had to throw that kind of punch. He was definitely not going to knock my uncle out. He said, that's crazy. crazy to get that kind of perspective, from family history. Good stuff. Anyway, that's on the horizon. I never did hear back from Al Bernstein's people. Probably too busy. He's got a lot of offers now with all these streaming services linked to boxing. All right. Till next week.
All right, guys. I want
All right. Enjoy. Enjoy the,
to
the,
see
the newfound luxury there, Tony. Have fun.